secularism or happy secularism?
No, this is an interesting and I think very complex question. Benedict, of course, chose his name out of homage to the original Saint Benedict, who was the founder of the Benedictine orders, which is somewhat ironic, given that at least the sort of the cartoon story of Benedict is Christian civilization was preserved by a kind of retreat into the monasteries, preserving through these subtle acts of faithfulness as opposed to outward acts of social and political reconstruction. And yet we have in Benedict someone who I think was simultaneously sanguine about what needed to be done, but pessimistic about its possibilities. But he still was, in some sense, the Pope for Europe. And I think he really viewed his vocation as being to articulate, perhaps for the last time in a long time, this vision of a civilization, a European civilization, that was rendered coherent by its groundedness in a certain conception of Christianity. Francis, the points of tension are go across different levels, and I think Francis is certainly less intellectual, more pastoral, which has just less of an inclination towards these kind of systematic visions. I think Francis is knowingly or unknowingly, quite possibly the latter, operating as if the Benedictine project has failed. I think that's one way to read it, and viewing the vocation of the church within society and culture, not one of transformation through the top down, which isn't quite an apt description of Benedict, and I think his view of culture from the bottom as well as institutions from the top is complex, but there is a way of reading healthy secularity as constituting a systematic vision of the social order as such. I think Francis is envisioning the church which Benedict described 30 years earlier at Vatican II as a smaller, more muscular church. I'm sorry, not more muscular, a smaller, weaker church. And how does that church engage culture? Not through institutions, not through grand cultural ideas, but through living with the poor, for instance. So I think, this is not something I've completely thought through, but I do think there are some certainly tensions at the level of practice as well as theory, and certainly a way of reading Francis as operating as if, whether he believes this or not, but operating in a way that presages how this religious community, at least in the post-Christian West, might operate when battles over things like religious symbols cease to be viable or particularly useful.